A number of recent incidents in this country have highlighted how racial tension or bias, even what social scientists call unconscious bias, can escalate. This spring and summer, those concerns have taken on new urgency and risen to national attention, as otherwise routine events have turned into confrontations among citizens and sometimes with the police. Yamiche Alcindor explores this issue further now. It's part of our Race Matters reporting.
Several of the latest confrontations have involved white citizens calling police on African Americans engaged in typical everyday activities, including a 12-year-old mowing lawns near Cleveland, Ohio, 2 men barbecuing at a public park in Oakland, California, or this 8-year-old girl selling bottled water without a permit outside the San Francisco Giants ballpark. The woman who called police here being captured on cell phone video posted by the girl's mother.
Girl, you can hide all you want. The whole world gonna see you, boo.
Yeah, and illegally selling water without a permit? Yeah.
On my property.
It's not your property.
The woman who made the call later apologized and denied her actions were racially motivated. Most of the incidents took place outside and in public and were caught on video that often went viral. While none of those incidents resulted in arrests or charges being filed, they followed other high-profile confrontations, including one in May that took a much more violent turn. Police in Warsaw, North Carolina, responded to a call from Waffle House employees over an alleged argument with a black patron. An officer slammed 22-year-old Anthony West into a wall and choked him. They said West, who had taken his sister to her high school prom earlier that night, was uncooperative. He was later charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. The CEO of Waffle House later apologized to West privately. And in early April, 2 black men were arrested in a Philadelphia Starbucks when employees called police because the men had taken a table without ordering anything. The men were later released and settled with the city for $1 each, and a pledge to establish a program for young entrepreneurs. The founder of Starbucks personally apologized to the men.
As I shared with you in Philadelphia, it was a reprehensible situation that we took complete ownership of, and something that really was embarrassing, horrifying, and all the issues that we talked about that day.
And the company closed thousands of its stores nationwide a month later for a one-day employee training session on how to recognize and overcome implicit or unconscious bias in their decision-making. All of this comes at a time when police behavior and response is under scrutiny, particularly when it comes to detaining and arresting black people. On June 19th, police in East Pittsburgh shot and killed 17-year-old Antoine Rose as he fled a car. The vehicle was stopped during the investigation of a drive-by shooting. Rose was shot 3 times in the back as he ran. The officer who fired the shots was later charged with criminal homicide.
Many of these incidents have taken on hashtags and memes of their own, often referred to as living while black. We examined the concerns and some of the responses with the president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. Derek Johnson, thanks so much for being here. I want to jump right in. There have been incident after incident of people calling the police on black people while doing regular everyday things like swimming and barbecuing. What do you think is at the heart of these incidents?
Well, we've seen since the president election in 2016 an increase of intolerance. You have individuals who simply see young kids and think they are criminals. They pose a danger. In my home city of Detroit, Michigan, a 14-year-old simply asking for direction to schools to get shot at. The level of intolerance is germinating directly from the White House.
Some people are criticizing the police, saying that they shouldn't respond when someone calls the police on an 8-year-old selling bottled water. What role do you think the police have, especially when the police say that they need to respond because if they're called, they need to engage?
Well, at some point, the police also need to take account that individuals are being falsely accused, and those who are accusing should also be facing criminal charges. How could anyone call the police on an 8-year-old selling bottled water? The level of intolerance is something that needs to be responded back to by the police. So if there's a false claim, those individuals who are making a claim should be charged.
And in some of these incidents, we see white people, white women calling the police on black people. these callers often say that they aren't motivated by race. They're just concerned citizens that want to talk to the police. What's your response, and what do you make of people saying that people should have a right to call the police if they have a concern?
Well, we're not suggesting no one shouldn't call the police, but implicit bias is something that we've seen across the country for many years. The difference now between the past is social media has allowed individual citizens to capture what's taking place, to report it, and or have a counter sense of information, the truth.
People are so disturbed by some of these incidents because we've seen lethal incidents where police have encountered unarmed African Americans and shot them unjustifiably. But we also see that Starbucks closed thousands of its stores to train its employees on implicit bias and unconscious bias. Are you at all encouraged by what you see Starbucks and others doing?
Well, when corporate citizens such as Starbucks understand the complexity of what's taking place, to take a step back, shut down the stores, take a loss to ensure that their employees understand the seriousness of misrepresenting someone's character or behavior, that's significant. Other corporations should take notes.
So what do you think the NAACP is doing or should be doing to kind of counteract some of the things you just talked about?
Well, presidential election is the high watermark of voter activity. Midterm elections is when activity go down. We're encouraging our voters, individuals who has a history of voting during presidential, we must go vote during this midterm elections. Elections have consequences, and we're living through those consequences.
But America had issues, race issues in particular, long before President Trump was elected to office. You referenced President Trump several times, but what do you make of the idea that this has been a long history, going back generations of people looking at African Americans and saying, hey, that's a criminal, I need to call the police, over criminalizing African Americans?
Well, yes, it has been going on a long time, but to normalize what's taking place, and that's what's happening now. There was a time that it would have been unheard of in the last 15 years to have a Charlottesville type rally. And over time, people say this is not right. But since the presidential election, we've seen a sharp increase. In fact, since the election of President Obama in 2008, we've seen this increase. And now there's a complete loss of civility in the public discourse, complete distrust, and media plays a key role in creating tribalism in ways in which we have not seen in many, many years.
So do you believe that if someone can then go to the ballot box, elect an official that cares about racial discrimination, cares about these issues, that's going to stop someone from calling the police on a girl who's selling bottled water? Do you think that this is something that's ultimately political, or do you think that there is a cultural change that needs to be happening here?
Well, it's an accountability question that I'm raising. Police officers only respond if there's accountability in place. So when you have accountable district attorneys to ensure that they will apply the law equally to bad actors, police officers, as they will criminals, then the police officers adjust their behaviors. If you have elected officials who are leaders in their communities and they put in place public policy to hold people accountable, then the level of intolerance will go away, and because there is an accountability measure that's in place.
You talked about the laws, you talked about policies, but what we're talking about is white citizens looking at an African-American child selling bottled water and saying, I need to call the cops. That's not a law that can change. That's someone's heart or someone's mind looking at that child and saying something needs to happen here.
Well, it's hard to legislate someone's heart. You know, the only thing you can do is put accountability measures in place and hope that different communities embrace a multicultural reality where people can have greater appreciation and understanding.
2 employees accused of racial profiling at a Hilton DoubleTree hotel in Oregon are on leave this morning. The hotel apologized a second time to Jermaine Massey. In a widely shared Instagram video and several other videos, he claimed he was targeted for, quote, calling his mother while black. DeMarco Morgan shows us how this is the latest incident of police being called on African Americans who are doing seemingly ordinary things.
It's another talker this morning, guys. Good morning to everyone. Jermaine Massey was returning from a concert Saturday night when he said he went to a quiet corner of the hotel lobby to take a phone call from his mother. When a security officer, now dubbed Hotel Earl by the internet, approached him, things got heated.
You really want this PR issue, Earl? Do you?
Jermaine Massey was ordered to pack his bags and leave the DoubleTree Hotel in Portland, Oregon, hours after he checked in.
A situation around here.
The 71-year-old security guard, Earl Wesley Myers, had asked Massey for his room number. Massey said he didn't remember it and requested privacy for his phone call. Instead, Myers called for the police.
Why are they coming?
Escort you off the property.
Because what? And I'm staying here?
Not anymore.
He even went so far to say that he's there to protect the safety of the guests, as if I weren't a guest and I was causing a disturbance and I was a safety threat.
Massey says white guests in the lobby were not similarly questioned.
They're not loitering.
How am I loitering in an area that's public?
You're sitting here.
So this area is off limits after a certain time?
Only if you're a guest.
I am a guest.
You didn't tell me that.
I just checked in with my American Express. And
Massey produced his room key for a manager.
He wouldn't ask me to call 911 without any cost.
I didn't do anything to this man.
Okay.
I'm taking a phone call.
But responding officers warned Massey he could be arrested for trespassing if he stayed.
That I need to leave.
Control of the property, yes.
According to the police report, the 34-year-old who said he was a former FBI agent became loud and started yelling that the hotel was racist.
You know, judging someone based off of the color of their skin, you never know how it feels until you've actually been there. I could have went to jail had I responded a different way.
And the past year, police have been called on a group of black people barbecuing.
It's illegal to have a charcoal grill in the park here.
A girl selling bottled water on the sidewalk.
Illegally selling water without a permit?
And Bob Marley's granddaughter after she and her friends left their Airbnb.
Yale University says it admonished a white student for calling campus police when she found a black student sleeping in their dorm's common area. Facebook videos of the incident have been viewed more than 1 million times. It is the latest example of a black person reported to authorities for doing something legal and ordinary. Jerika Duncan is near the Yale campus in New Haven, Connecticut. Jerika, good morning.
Good morning. That black student named Lolati Shiambala says she was studying here early Tuesday morning in this building behind me, working on a paper when she decided to take a break. Well, that's when she says a white student came into the common area room where she was sleeping and told her she was not allowed to sleep there, and then called campus police. Well, that's when Shiambala started recording.
I have every right to call the police. You cannot sleep in that room.
Lolati Shiambala was questioned by Yale police for about 15 minutes for taking a nap.
I deserve to be here. I pay tuition like everybody else. I'm not going to justify my existence here.
To prove she was a graduate student, Shiambala unlocked her apartment door and provided her student ID. But officers wouldn't let her go because they say they had trouble confirming her identity.
Well, this is private property, and we are police officers here, so we are allowed to do our job.
Shiambala said the white student, whom she identified as Sarah Brosh, once called police and accused another black student, Renaissance Jean-Louis, of being an intruder in the dorm last February.
It's just an instance of microaggression that I think many black students here at Yale experience.
In the last 3 weeks, videos have been widely shared of police being called on black people, from leaving their Airbnb in California.
1, 2, 3, 4 police officers here.
Playing golf too slowly in Pennsylvania.
Remove yourself from our premises in the next 5 minutes, please. Because the authorities have been called.
To holding a business meeting at a Starbucks in Philadelphia.
There's a good chance if the person was white, it wouldn't have gotten that far.
Khalil Gibran Muhammad is a professor of history, race, and public policy at Harvard.
This is an uneven burden being distributed onto black people, and the police are in the middle of it.
Yale police say that they followed protocol. The white student who complained did not respond to CBS This Morning's request for an interview, but police say that they told her this was not a police matter and that Shiambala had every right to be here.
So, we have another story to tell you about. A white woman who called police because a black man was wearing socks in a swimming pool has now been fired. Camry Porter recorded the video and shared it on Facebook. She was at her apartment complex's pool in Memphis with her boyfriend and her young godsons, enjoying the 4th of July holiday. Porter says that they were the only black people there and that her boyfriend was sitting along the edge of the pool with his feet dipped in the water.
That's when Porter says a woman who claims she was the property manager asked him to remove his socks because they weren't, quote, proper pool attire. The woman then called the police when he did not take off his socks or leave the pool. Porter says she felt racially targeted.
She was like, well, I'm the property manager, and she pointed at the rules. The rules say proper pool attire. It doesn't specify what proper pool attire is. A gentleman, he had on black Adidas basketball shorts. It does look funny. It's 25, 30 plus white people out here, and you haven't said, you're partying with them. You're partying with them, but when we come, it's an issue.
When police arrived at the scene, Porter and her boyfriend decided to leave, saying that the situation, quote, could have gone a whole other way. As we mentioned, the woman who called the cops has since been fired from her job.
I wasn't talking to you. You say don't talk to your refs. I don't talk to them. I talk to my son, and I still get this from you.
He was standing next to me, talking to his son, and this lady decides to butt in somehow and is now calling the cops because he was talking to his son.
They had a bad call with my son, and I told him, I said, hey, the ref is right. Always right, because I've always talked. And I said, hey, and that's it. She thought I was yelling at the ref, so she came over. And I'm like, ma'am, I was not. She told me, what did you? I said, no, ma'am, I was talking to my son, nobody else. And I said, well, I wanted you to reiterate that. I said, no, ma'am, I was only talking to my son, and that's it. But she kept going. I'm like, ma'am, I'm done with it. Then she's like, well, that's the way you feel. You can just leave it. I just called the police. I'm like, well, what I did? I didn't do anything.
And that's just not fair. This shouldn't happen to anyone at all.
Amu Kanute is a rising sophomore at Smith College and works here this summer teaching chemistry to high schoolers for Smith's STEM program. She was reading in the dining hall of the Tyler House dorm here Tuesday.
Next thing you know, I see the cop walk in with a Smith employee whom I've never seen before. And the man asked me, we were wondering why you're here.
She says police told her an employee had called about a suspicious black man. She recorded video with her phone.
Sorry.
We were wondering why you were here.
Oh, I was eating lunch. I'm working the summer program.
Adding her own text on Instagram with a post that's prompted outrage from supporters.
It just still upsets me to just talk about it because I don't even feel safe on my own campus and I'm away from home. I'm the first in my family to go to college. I'm doing this not only for me, but for my family, for my ancestors.
Smith's president sent a statement apologizing and assuring the student that she belongs in all Smith spaces. This painful incident reminds us of the ongoing legacy of racism and bias in which people of color are targeted while simply going about the business of their daily lives.
I make $125,000 a year, and I want to make sure that you're all up in here. Girl, I got you, girl. I'm white. I'm girl, white. I'm girl. White. I'm white. I got you, girl. Hey, how are you? I'm hot. I'm beautiful. I'm 51. What are we going to talk about tonight? Being hot, being beautiful, being white, being my new weave.
Why do you feel you need to be in our space?
Well, I live here and I pay rent. I pay almost $1,100.
And so does she.
Okay.
Just don't talk to her, please don't, because I don't know
what's going on.
Okay, I don't know, but we can call 911 to find out if you
That's
got a problem.
Cool. Is your boyfriend here? Is your baby daddy here? Nobody cares. I'm white and I'm hot. I'm white and I'm hot. So what are you doing here?
I don't know, but we're going to see you in court Monday morning.
Okay, all right. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, great. I got you too, baby. I got you, baby. I got you. This is Myers Park. This is a Myers Park. Babe, good. Go. What are you doing hanging out here on Friday night?
From St. Louis, a confrontation caught on video. A white woman blocking a black tenant from entering their apartment building, demanding proof that he lives there. She followed him into the elevator, and you're about to hear what she said and how he responded. Here's Lindsay Davis.
Please move, ma'am.
The video reeks of a recurring phenomenon.
I can. Do you live here?
This time in St. Louis. De'Arion Tolles was returning to his apartment Friday when he was confronted.
All I'm asking is what unit?
But I don't need to tell you that information, ma'am.
If you want to come into my building.
It's not your building. You're not the owner.
Millions have watched Tolles' cell phone footage.
Ma'am, you're not security. You're not the property manager. You're not.
I live here.
Okay, and I live here too.
I don't like the fact you have your phone in my face.
Okay, I don't like the fact that you're blocking me for where I pay.
All I'm asking is what unit?
When he ultimately moves past Hillary Mueller.
No.
Excuse me.
No.
Excuse me.
Are you kidding me? Where are you going?
She gets in the elevator with him.
I want to know who you're going to see.
And follows him.
You just follow me all the way to my door.
As the plane.
And you see my keys in the door.
Mueller has now been fired. Her former employer, Tribeca STL, saying the company never will stand for racism or racial profiling.
And Lindsay with us here on the set tonight. And Lindsay, you were telling us that about 30 minutes after that whole scene played out, she then called police.
She then called police. Toll says that police told him that she felt uncomfortable with him being there, even after she had seen the keys. But to Toll's credit, he says that he doesn't want people to bother Mueller. He says that he hopes that she'll be left in peace. We did reach out to her, but did not receive comment back, David. All right.
For the first time in my life, I felt like someone was judging me just based on how I looked.
You people are ignorant.
This is what unfolded when Mary Williams of Tampa complained about a room reservation at a franchisee-owned Hampton Inn in Lake Park, Georgia.
Your reservation is not in my system one. We extended a courtesy to you, which we did not have to. Step away from my counter.
Whoa, this is so unnecessary.
Williams says she made a reservation on the Hilton Hotel app and received a confirmation email. But the Hampton Inn's computer showed her July 27 reservation was canceled when Williams checked in at the front desk. Williams says she did get a room, but it had fewer amenities and cost more than the one she originally booked.
There's nowhere else to put you. You're lucky you got in a room for what we did do for what my girl had last night. She contacted me and I did check internally last night. The ignorance is bliss and you guys are just blazing this morning.
Williams also snapped these photos of a cracked toilet and broken rollaway bed in the replacement room. They wanted to switch the room for their next night's stay.
I know the standard, and I feel like my family hasn't been able to experience that.
Williams' sister Ebony Dobson was traveling with her. Dobson actually works in the corporate customer complaint department for Hampton Inn's parent company, Hilton.
I really feel like it was because of me letting them know that I work for the company, because I actually work for the corporate office, and so I think that was a trigger for them.
Dobson's attempt to handle the situation for Williams backfired.
If you have corporate complaints, walk yourself right in there and call. I'm not afraid. I don't know what you people think.
Well, first of all, Ms. Rose,
I do not want to talk to you. I'm not going to argue with a fool. Do you understand?
Wow. I don't know why you feel that way about me.
Shut up.
I don't know. Ebony, just stop.
Yes,
so,
please. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not going to argue with a fool. I'm just not.
So we're both fools. I know you ask questions. Are we going to have a conversation, or do you just get to talk?
Do you understand the law is coming?
New developments in that heated police encounter in Colorado. You'll remember it. We've showed it to you a few times. A black man confronted by an officer while picking up trash in his own yard. The newly released body cam footage shows how it all started. ABC's Clayton Sandell has the very latest.
I couldn't help but notice you just sitting on the patio out there. What's that? I couldn't help but notice you sitting on the patio behind this building. Yeah.
From calm to chaotic in seconds.
Well, I'm just checking to make sure that you have a right to be here, that's all.
I just told you I lived here.
Okay.
And I told you that I'm working as well.
Okay.
So shouldn't that be enough for you?
Newly released body camera footage shows Boulder police officer John Smiley investigating Zaid Atkinson in March for trespassing after spotting the college student picking up trash in front of his building. The tension rapidly escalates.
Sit down.
I'm not sitting down.
Then you're probably going to get tased in a second.
Why?
Because you have a weapon. Put that down.
I have a weapon?
Put it down and comply with my orders.
Atkinson refuses.
It's filming right now.
You're an idiot.
Have a seat,
please. Why would you think that you could tase me? I'm freaking picking up trash on my property.
I need to confirm it.
Where I live.
There's a sign.
I'm not doing anything illegal, and you're not going to tase me, officer.
A scathing internal affairs investigation finding the officer did not have probable cause to charge Atkinson with any crime and should have ended his contact as soon as Atkinson gave his name and address.
I told you many times to put it down.
And you're holding a gun.
Put it down.
And you're holding a gun.
Sir, put it down.
And you're holding a gun. How do you feel?
Put it down,
How
sir.
do you feel, officer?
More officers arrive, 8 in all, some with guns drawn.
I will not sit down. I refuse to sit down until you guys put your weapons away.
Finally, police confirm Atkinson's story.
Does he live here?
Yes.
Okay.
And the tense 22-minute standoff ends.
So we've decided that we're going to end things at this point.
What a surprise.
Okay.
Well, I believe that this man had approached me because I'm a black male in an all-white town.
Boulder police claim there was no evidence Atkinson was racially profiled, but say Smiley likely would have still been suspended or fired. Instead, the 14-year veteran quit the force.
You can feel the intents behind it.
you know, and so I felt it. I felt the heat from it. I felt it in her eyes. I knew exactly what it was.
Jessica Richardson says she and her husband were looking to spend the holiday weekend picnicking with their dog, possibly even renting a cabin. She says they Googled a nearby Campgrounds of America location and decided to drive there. And that's when things took a turn for the worse.
She jumped out, and the gun was pointed at me, my husband, and our dog. It was just pointing at us. And one finger was on the trigger. The other finger was on the, I always forget the
on the lever.
On the lever of the revolver.
Richardson says that's when she pulled out her cell phone. The woman holding the gun identified herself as the property manager, but her choice of words were less than professional.
She was just like, get, you don't belong here, you don't belong here, you don't belong here.
Richardson says the confrontation was shocking.
Time stopped, everything stopped.
Yeah, I was confused with what was going on.
Right.
Because, I mean, we ain't like we were posed to threat to anybody. We're out there walking our dog. I mean,
Right.
There's nothing harmful about that.
The fact that she used get like we were a dog. You know, you say get to a stray dog that's on your porch. And that get got to me more than you don't belong here.
On the way out, they spoke to another campground employee outside of the office who turned out to be the woman's husband.
So I get out, start talking to him, and he says, first thing he says, oh no, you don't need a reservation for the lake. And then she pulls up, when she flies pulling up, hops out the car, and then proceeded to yell at my wife.
Get in the car, get in the car.
You get in the car, you need to get back in the car, and like cussing her out, and she's not even saying anything.
With signs at the front entrance and two different stories from employees, the Richardsons were confused, horrified, and disappointed. The Army National Guard sergeant recently returned home from a 9-month deployment in the Middle East.
It's kind of crazy. You go over there, don't have a gun pointed at you, and come back here, and the first thing happens, you have a gun pointed at you. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about.
Props to Starbucks for trying to fix something that's clearly broken. It'll stop serving coffee for a day to send employees to racial bias training. But the habit of calling the police on Black people is not just a Starbucks culture problem, it's an American culture problem. Remember what happened when neighbors called the cops on this pool party in Texas? A cop tackled a teenager a fraction of his size and pointed his gun at unarmed kids. And remember this in South Carolina? She just refused to put away her cell phone in class. And of course, you can forget when a woman in Massachusetts called 911 to report a possible robbery. The guy who was arrested was Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates, and he was just trying to get into his own house. Black people in the United States have faced arrest or death for minor infractions or no crime at all since slavery. Personally, I can't help but think of lynchings. Even after slavery was abolished, almost 4,000 Black people were murdered this way between 1877 and 1950. Yes, we've come a long way, but still, in schools, stores, and even our own homes, the reality is that we can be taken out of the equation at any time. And all it takes is for one call to the police. Remember Stephon Clark? Sacramento police fired 20 rounds at him in his own backyard. He was unarmed, and now he's dead. The white neighbor who called the police said he never wants to call 911 again. He wasn't the victim of the violence, but nevertheless, he's seeing the consequences of a broken system, and that bias can result in someone like me being arrested, tackled, or killed at a party, at a store, or even in my own home. Starbucks will do what it needs to do to protect its brand. But what is America doing to protect its citizens of color? Who will train people to stop calling the cops on their unarmed Black neighbors? Who will train school officials to not use police force on Black kids for just being kids? Who will train the convenience store managers, the mom and pop restaurants? America needs to be having these conversations and asking itself these tough questions, because for a lot of people that look like me, our lives literally depend on it.